welcome to episode 2 of Remain Resilient. My guest today and conversational partner is Professor Zhaochen Ding from Beijing, or currently in Taiwan. Do you want to very quickly introduce yourself?
Oh, my name is Zhaochen. I've been living in Beijing for the past 17 years. I'm teaching in the university in design in a global scale based on my previous experience from the Western country in China, in Taiwan. And I have my family living in Beijing as well, but right now they're apart from me uh, in Korea.
In South Korea, yeah?
Yes,
Yeah, and this is one of the
South Korea,
reasons,
yes.
one of the, one of the reasons why I've wanted to talk to you about resilience is that here in Germany, we have a big discussion ongoing about what can we learn from countries that have been faring well with regards to COVID-19, to the coronavirus crisis. And amongst the countries that are often cited are South Korea and Taiwan. Taiwan not appearing in the WHO statistics because they're not a formal member. And I have been knowing you, we've been knowing each other for many years, doing projects together in China, in Germany, in Australia. And I thought it would be very good to get some insights from you and also from your perspective on to the situation being a designer and a professor of design and design innovation. Um, Before we talk about this, I wanted to just briefly map out what I understand when I hear resilience and what the notion of resilience means to me. So, resilience, that's a question that's been asked after episode 1. What do you mean by resilience? And to me, it's almost a standard academic definition that comes from sociology, psychology, medicine, because resilience is a concept that's being studied across many disciplines. It's a very interesting concept. Whenever you run into concepts that are studied across, there must be something to them because everyone also, of course, has their own reading, their way of looking at resilience. But overall, you could broadly say, okay, resilience means that there's an individual level, then there's an organizational level, and the societal level, an ability to
Yeah.
resist, to adapt, and to regenerate during and after maybe unpredictable, stressful life circumstances, and to overcome these circumstances by understanding them as opportunities for development, a chance. And this is the way I look at it. So, to dive into this conversation, Daniel, what is your personal definition and your reading of resilience?
I've been thinking about this after you gave me the email regarding how I define resilient. I've been trying to think in Chinese that we have a saying called, I just put this in the conversation, the chat.
Mm.
It
Can you
says,
say, can you read this to us? Because my Chinese is not very
it's
good.
called 随遇, no problem.
Say this
I'll
again, please. Say it
let you
again,
know the
please.
meaning.
Yeah, say it again, please.
随遇而安,
Mm-hmm.
随遇而安, meaning that for any circumstances, you find peace and happiness for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
In any circumstances, try to find peace and happiness for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And my definition will be a bit a difference from my personal point of view is to it means that adapting oneself to circumstances uh, in any circumstances and while offering support while you can, meaning that adapting yourself to any circumstances while offering support while one can.
Mm-hmm.
So, so not just for yourself, actually, being happy and well, and also offer support to other countries or to other people in the way that what you can do. So that is why I've been trying to do a little bit thing based on my professions. And as a designer, I know I cannot do much because I'm designer. I can cure people, but I can offer a little bit help
Mm-hmm. That's a perfect
from
passing
my
the ball
personal
to
point
me.
of view and my profession.
Yes. That's a perfect pass to talk about your background. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do in your everyday, what your profession is, and also really very concretely talk about what is it that you've been doing in terms of providing this peace to people by way of your expertise?
If you can allow me, I can show you some slides. I did some. I can share to you. And hold on. Can you see this?
It's loading. Yep, can see it.
Okay. I'll try to enlarge this so you can see it a bit clear. What I
Perfect.
did in January. That was the first moment I notified there was a virus back in early January. I wasn't very aware of this uh, virus happening in China because the news wasn't very much during the time when I was in China. I came back to Taiwan in mid-January for the election, and uh, I was trying to write a proposal. It's called Health Design Chapter Committee to apply to a committee to the Health China Research Center. That was in. It was dated on January the 10th. Because I think health is very, very important. I've been doing this health design related issues and project for the past 3 or 4 years. So it was like a coincidence for me. And until the thing gets bad in late January on 24th, as we know the shutdown of the Wuhan on 24th of January. Before that, I've been working on this proposal for an international workshop called Design Day Marathon. It's an international workshop. We invite people from international university to participate during the design week in Beijing
And
every
we
year.
had discussed this
And this
because we were
year,
talking about, sorry to say, but and we had been discussing this because I have been so interested in sustainability and what can design do, and creative designers help with sustainability development goals. So yeah.
yeah, and that time I had the sense of the virus issue. So based on this sense, I have modified the proposal a little bit, but the general idea is designing sustainable well-being. So it's very fitting into the context we are talking about and also the situation we are currently have, that the health issue and the well-being of everyone. So I put the users, you can see here some medical persons, they're here. It was like a very early um, effort that I've been working on to using my background knowledge, trying to think about how we can serve to the general public and also for the medical staff here. Until 27th of January, which was the early outbreak of the coronavirus in China and the shutdowns of the city of Wuhan. And notice the situation becomes very, very severe. And just one day, the days of the first days of the Chinese New Year, I saw this post. from WeChat that one designer who has used some pictures from the web trying to produce a storybook for the kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I came up with this idea that if this is a epidemic or pandemic in the future, that we all need to know this. And most of the time, the people who are knowing this are adults, not kids, not the seniors. So I was quite concerned about this issue because my daughter were away from me. So I want to do something for them and for their classmates. So I call my staff and my students together, 7 people. We are working on this. I, can you see this? Is the end time COVID-19 picture book for the children. So we did this in 7 days, and we try to publish this in the international version, allowing people to modify by themselves that introducing the coronavirus issue, how you prevent this to the kids
What a wonderful idea,
globally.
Daniel.
Yeah, that was very early.
Very
And we
early.
did this. We received a lot of feedbacks. There's many language. I don't remember now how many because we are circulating this in the international platforms. So including you, thanks, Stefan. You've been translating this into German. Yeah. So this is
And I
basically
shared
what I've
it.
been
I
doing
shared
as
it,
a
of course,
designer.
with the people I know. Mm.
Yeah. So this is basically what I do in January. In February, the things in China starting calming down, and as you know, that it's become heat and hot in the Western country and the rest of the world, and that was the time I start to teach. We are very early adapting the online teaching strategy because China is the country starting to have the coronavirus. And so all our students and faculty, we are actually isolated, forced to stay at home very early in February. So all the teacher, we were starting preparing for the online courses in the middles of January while we were in vacation. So we've been actually doing this preparation for 2 weeks. Every day we are doing online. We are preparing for the online courses. We have the evaluation for the online courses, and we have the test for the online courses. We also have a competition for the online courses in order to start this the end of February. So uh, we are actually were very prepared for this. So what I did in January, I start this online courses. I had a design studio, which is very odd in the way that we do this online. Basically, we do this offline, so we can see the student, but we have to do something online. So I came up this idea that I would like to do a calendar, which uh, was actually based on the calendar I was mentoring a bunch of students last year during the design week. But I found this calendar is very interesting because this calendar is serving to the elderly people. Because you know, most of the coronavirus infected people, they are elderly people. They feel very scared and they are isolated at home. So how we can comfort these people, I think that moment comforting people mentally was the very important issue as well, instead of preventing the virus, because they know the news every day. And social networking is quite popular in China. So we receive a lot of negative information about the virus, how many people were infected and died.
Can
So
I ask
I
a
would like to
question
do
real
something
quick,
for them.
Dan? Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. but very quickly for also people who watch, um, do you have knowledge about how many older people are using social media and these tools, communication tools in China? What's the saturation of people using also smartphones and apps, apps, and in the older ranges, age ranges?
This is statistics I don't have, sorry. But I think based on the popularities of the payment system, as you know, last year you were in Shenzhen, so you understand the situation that we've been using uh, no cash payment system for a couple years until now that we are very adapting to this system. So the elderly people, they are kind of forced to use this system, and without the smartphone is not very easy. Maybe I can do this research for you later on to tell you the numbers of people who are using the smartphone. But so far, I don't have the statistic
No
to you.
worries, but would be very interesting, and I do agree with you. That would be the logic. Everyone's
Yeah,
using mobile payment, QR code based payment with Alipay, and there's other systems, but Alipay is the predominant system, and that way we could safely assume that there is a much higher saturation than in other countries.
yes. And based on this idea that to comfort the seniors who are actually isolated at home during the epidemic, and we've been trying to work on a project using Chinese calligraphy and calendar as a content that we are we were and are encouraging the elderly people to write calligraphy every day using their own calendar. So I might be able to show you the real example right now, because these are, you know, the feedbacks and also the actual practice when the elderly people are actually doing calligraphy practice when they're at home. Do you allow me to skip for 1 minute so I can get the calendar for you right
Yes,
now?
please. In the
Okay.
meantime, I'll be uh, idling. This is live. I don't think I will edit this. I kind of like the way that we're just interactively doing stuff, and we're still on. This is the current situation. I could talk, but it could also be still, because stillness is yet another thing that we oftentimes overlook. And I haven't been even still. I wanted to be still whilst Daniel was away, but here he is. I was just been talking, Daniel, and saying I'm not going to edit this out. I'm going to leave it in, and maybe it's a good time to be still. It's something that I've been discussing with friends. The concept of stillness and how we have lost this in times when we all run and we have to be active all the time, etc., etc. And we're losing just the sight of or that situation where we just look out the window and we just enjoy the blue skies. Anyhow, here you are.
Okay. I cannot see myself.
It's
So
okay.
can
You're
you see
there.
my calendar right
Yes,
now?
we can.
Okay. This is the actual calendar we did last year. And right now this calendar, it has been used in the facility in Taiwan.
Hold it up a little
That
further,
is
Dan. Hold it up a little further. Yeah, there you go.
okay.
Yeah.
And this is like an A3 size calendar.
Yeah.
Inside there is a Chinese calligraphy that you have to write it down by yourself.
Oh, so it's basically, oh, I see. Oh, you're exercising the calligraphy. That's
Yes,
amazing.
in the way that we combine the calendar along with calligraphy together.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you do this every day like an exercise, a very minor exercise
Yep.
for the elderly people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the drawing you can do. You can do drawing by yourself. So it's very easy, simple job. Like my father is reading porn every day by himself
Mm-hmm.
as a routine. So we create this routine for the elderly people who can work at home during the time of the epidemic.
Yep. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah. And there are some tests too, the games.
So have you been sending these out? Have you been shipping these to people?
Not yet. We've
Not
been
yet.
only doing this in Taiwan
Yep.
right now. And as I told you, I was teaching in Beijing during the time in February. We've been producing this kind of prototypes that is not yet publicized
Ah. Yeah, 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 yeah,
until
yeah.
now.
I see. That makes
This
a
version
lot of sense.
is a Taiwanese, yeah, it's a Taiwanese version.
Mm-hmm.
I we made, yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So, you know what? I that's absolutely beautiful. I also get this idea of how do you provide peace to other people. I really love that concept. This is beautiful, Daniel. Thank you for that. I think there's a lot of people will see the contribution in this. Dan, I want to know. There's a lot of discussion, as I said at the beginning, in Germany at the moment about what is it that we can learn from Taiwan and South Korea and how to deal with this pandemic and specifically deal with it with digital technology. Um, I do you have very generally speaking, I know that you've been living in the West. You used to live in the US, in Austin, where I also used to live and studied. You have been traveling the world. We've met in Germany. You've been to Italy a lot, I know. And from what you know, if you compare the reactions that you know have happened in Taiwan and in South Korea when the pandemic came, when it started, when you compare this to what you read and know about the Western countries, what are your thoughts? Have we been doing a good job in terms of resilience and in terms of using digital technology to provide resilience?
Regarding the digital technology, I will say that in Taiwan we did very early preparations. As you said, Taiwan is not one of the WHO member,
Yep.
so we are very aware of the problem might happen uh, in the cases when pandemic is happening. Uh, so the government here is very prepared for this issue. That is also as part of the experience happened in 2003 when SARS came.
Yep.
We had very serious situations in 2003 that we learned a lot from the previous experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the reasons that the Western country, they are not so aware of the preventions of the coronavirus is that most of people, they don't have experience. If
Mm-hmm.
you do have experience like in South Korea, because they do have MERS experience.
Mm-hmm.
And in Taiwan, we had SARS experience in China. But one of the things I feel very curious was about the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
because U.S. they also have very serious experience on epidemic issues, but right now their situation of stopping the virus seems to me very, very badly. They are number one country who has infected patients.
Yep, I
In
know.
Taiwan, we there's several policy from government, I think, which is very good. One is to stop shipping, trading the mask, which we generally think is very, very good prevention for being infected.
Hmm.
So a lot of people, when you see this on the street, right now, basically you find 80% of people they are wearing masks.
And not just during times of a pandemic or an epidemic, but
No,
it's a cultural thing. If you are ill, you wear a mask, correct?
you feel you are ill, you are
Aha.
uh, suspect uh, suspecting that other people are, so you can always wear a mask. So it's really like a tradition that we don't feel this is disturbing people.
Exactly. I wanted to
This
ask.
happened
Hmm.
this happened in most of the Asian countries,
Yes.
Northeast Asian countries.
Yep.
Yeah,
And it's not considered a threat, or you're not being considered an outsider or anything. It's just a, a sense of, would you think that this is yet another sign of what I would call the collectivism that we find drives Asian countries?
I think so. I think so
Let's
because
talk about this a little bit. What does that mean, collectivism? When you hear this word, and you've grown up in a democratic country, what does that mean to you?
collectivism.
Yes, as in, if we're not just individuals, our decisions are not only driven by our ego, but they're driven by a sense of
Yeah,
we are in this together. Because my hypothesis here is wearing a mask right now under these special circumstances is considered almost like a it's almost like you're becoming a bad person, right? Oh, this is a potential threat.
no.
I'm not kidding you. So I would like to understand, do you think that there is a different notion of how you as an individual belong into a society, particularly when we look at the mask phenomenon? When you compare this between
Regarding this mask
Western
issue,
and Eastern countries?
regarding this mask issue, yeah, I think we do have our own democratic mind in terms of how our government is running, and also for me, that following this ethic of not to threat, not to create or not to create threats to other people is my responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, I'm right now living in my country, my father's house,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever I go to any public space, I will try to use my tissue to wipe it, to make it clean, and use the alcohol to try to clean up. Is part of my life. And also wearing mask is also very important as well. And for being a Taiwanese, we all think this is like being polite
Aha,
to
that's
the rest of the
what I'm
people.
trying to say
Yeah,
exactly. Mm-hmm.
we don't create troubles. We don't. I don't. I also think Korean and Japanese, they don't want to create trouble to other people too, in general. Well, some people do, but we all think that creating trouble to other people is not the good ethic in
Mm-hmm.
our own country, our own, yeah, tradition.
Yep. Let's talk about digital tools. So currently, there's a big discussion here in Germany about tracing. That you have an app, an app, and it uses Bluetooth, and
Yeah,
it measures proximity between two Bluetooth beacons that are built into the smartphone, right, or into the tablet, whatever device you've got on you,
yeah,
and that way to anonymously notify you if you have been in touch with someone who is a has a proven infection. We rate
yeah.
that these tools and these apps have been used in South Korea, and I also believe in Taiwan. And we know that Singapore has
No,
even
we
open
don't
sourced. Pardon
have
me?
this in Taiwan. Yeah,
Not in Taiwan.
we don't have this in Taiwan. I
Ah,
will talk
interesting.
about this,
Okay, so let's
our
talk about this.
strategy.
All
Yeah.
right, let's talk about what are good strategies, in your opinion, how to use digital technology to get a grasp on COVID-19.
I had this conversation with my friend in Korea regarding the tracing, the GPS tracing, because they receive a short message every day, several times from the central government, alarming people. It's called a coronavirus alarm,
Hmm.
alarming people that this area uh, has been visited by the people who are confirmed infected previously. So you should be aware. So once you get into this premise that you be receiving this show message. So I I told my friend that if this is the case in Taiwan, we will feel intimidated, not to be protected, but we feel intimidated. So I think this kind of issue is really depend on the people who can accept this or not. For Taiwanese people, we use different strategy. We do trace the people who are actually needed to be isolated. For example, if they are travel outside of the country, come back to Taiwan, they have to have a 14-day quarantine at home. So we trace these people and we put the very, very big fine on that. Is about 25,000 US dollars fine, which is very, very large. But apart from these people who are uh, uh, isolated during the quarantine, you are not actually traced. We don't know any people. We don't even know people who are who who have been living if they are infected. We just know the areas. For example, if these people are in Taipei, we just tell you, oh, okay, there's 20 people in Taipei infected. Unlikely in Korea, they have a different system. In Singapore, they have different system too. So I think the technology being used is basically, on my personal point of view, is to inform people to be aware of this virus, not to go out very often, but if you just tell using this kind of technology, tell them exactly location they are, I think they might create a threat
Yes.
or the pressure to the general publics.
Do you know any results of that in Taiwan? Does this have, what's the effect that the GPS notification has? Is there a studies on that already, that you say, or that way we can directly say that using this tool we have limited the number of new infections or anything like that?
I'll just tell you another story about just recently I saw on the news that commanders of the epidemic center, command center, he was asked by the news reporter that if you are going to do the full test like Korea, South Korea, you know, in South Korea, they have a full test. They have a drive-through system that allowing people to drive through there, and they can do the very very good test
We do the
and
same
give you
here
the
now
result
too.
immediately.
Yes.
Yeah, and the reason he said that we don't do the full test, maybe there's two. One reason that will cause a lot of burden to the finance of the country first, and also the burden to the medical system. And secondly, is that right now the test system is not accurate 100%. What if you are being tested and you know you are negative, and next week you become positive, and you are running around on the street and infecting a lot of people. And I wouldn't do, I wouldn't let this a situation happen in our country. So this was his personal point of view. I think this is right because, for example, if I've been tested without any symptoms and is negative, I might be going out right now to see my friends, and that creates a problem. So might as well just staying at home, keep myself confined at home, and protect the rest of people. So I agree what he was saying. Yeah.
I see. I notice you've prepared more slides. Do you want to go through them?
Most what?
More slides in the
Sorry?
in. Yep.
Okay, okay. I just give you some example about Taiwan.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please. Thank you. Thanks so much for preparing this, Dan. Much appreciated.
No. What happened in Taiwan? Successful story or not? Right now we are not closed down the school. So we are one of the 6 countries in the world. The school, elementary school, kindergarten, junior high schools and university are still open. So that's lucky. We are very, very lucky. And we have a very good SOP system that has been listed online, and also the number of people in the world infected, and also the current numbers of the people infected in China. So
Can
with
hold
this
on.
website,
Sorry. Can you explain SOP?
for example, the SOP that has been created on March 30th is that how you report an possible infection and infected person. That's the SOP for this.
A
All this
protocol. Yes, it's a
information,
protocol basically.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a protocol that has been released by the government. You can download it directly on the website
Mm-hmm.
for all the medical persons.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, you are very, the system in Germany, system is very diversified, or how do you
Yes.
say this?
Yes.
Uh, yeah.
Segmented, I would say.
So
Many different players. Very. It's a federal state. Many different states, and
yeah,
there's authorities in every state. Right. We're not a centralized
yeah.
country.
In Taiwan, we do have the centralized office, and it belongs to the Ministry of Health and Welfare. And the minister is actually in charge every single day. You don't see the president is coming out to speak to the people very often, but the minister, is the person speaking to the public. So it's kind of different. So when I see in the US, the the president is coming out and trying to say something, and the director of the
Is trying to
CDC
say something.
is trying to say another. So this
Is
makes people
trying to say
confused.
something.
So we don't do this. So I think the government is putting a lot of trust on him. So what he said becomes a, a law or the regulations for the people. For example, he regulated just recently we should keep distance. So the social distancing is just practicing right now, 2 days ago in Taiwan. And we are not forcing people. And according to what he said, that we are not forcing because we don't want people to feel panicked. And we want you to have a gradual learning curve. So right now he is trying to tell people. So we are not fining people for not keeping social distancing like Singapore.
Yep. Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
the
And
other
if we
is
put this
this.
together, Daniel, just a quick comment. if we put this together with what we've said earlier, or you said earlier, explaining politeness as a trait in many cultures in East Asia, then hypothesis, yes, social distancing, we don't force you, but because people will overall think it is a question of politeness that I do follow that regimen, then we can assume that this will be really kept. Maybe more so than you would see it in a Western country.
I personally don't know too much about how they react in the Western country, as far as having this kind of extreme situations,
I'll
because
say
most of the
this.
time,
I'll say, sorry,
when
please.
yeah, most of the time I see people in the Western country, they are polite in some way, but in terms of the illness in the situation like this, I don't know. Maybe you can tell me
Well,
how they
I don't
react.
know either. Well, I could tell you about images that were circulated in Germany where people was already told, stay at home, don't go out, keep social distancing, and they would meet in a beer garden and be close and go to bars and party, right? So let's not talk about that. That's idiotic.
No, 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 no.
But
Yeah.
what I can tell you is that we do have evidence that a younger age group, and this you could say has to do with them being wanting to mate, to meet people, to not have the same understanding of risk, that younger people are almost, they're not interested in this. They're like, why? This doesn't affect me. And my question then is, do you have knowledge whether this kind of, either culturally or because of the government says so, whether the younger audience also respects this way, this protocol, in your opinion, from what you know, your students, do you think your students do follow this and understand this, and they're not about, oh, I want to go out and I want to mate and I want to party and la la la, do all this kind of cool stuff that I usually do? Do you think that they get it? Because old people, we've described that. Young kids, I have kids myself, we need to be there, we need to embrace them, we need to give them love, right? That's what we need to do, and comfort. And that's exactly what we should be doing as designers. But what about that segment?
In for the young people, I do believe my students, they are really following the protocols on staying at home. One of the reason is that they cannot go out. That was very, very strict. If they go out, they will be arrested in China. So that's very serious. And most of people, up to the end of February, one of the students told me that from 24th of January until the end of February, she hasn't gone out, set any foot out of the home. So that was one very extreme case. But most of the students there, yes, they are staying at home. Right now, they can leave their home in China as well, of course. In Taiwan, we don't have this kind of issue too much because I don't see that other news. Because every day the news is very transparent. If this thing happens, you will definitely see. I don't see a lot of things like this for example, partying, you know, hanging out, not. But just recently that we do have, you know, the holidays for 3 or 4 days is called the Sweeping Tomb Festival. Sweeping Tomb, that we are respecting our ancestors. We have the 3 day holiday. Right now, there's a lot of people going out. Yeah. So not really. We don't have serious issue on this. Like what I saw, the springtime holiday in the U.S. A lot of people being interviewed.
I know.
They just
Oh man.
They just didn't care about this.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I know. All right. So, any other slides or stats that you want to share?
Okay. One thing I would like to show, which is also very interesting, is from the CDC site. You can see the CDC in
Yep.
Taiwan
Yep.
that has you know, the videos that has been made in English, Thai, Malaysian, Filipino, Indonesian, Vietnamese, Taiwanese, all these different people who've been living in Taiwan. So we create these videos that is helping people to know more about coronavirus on the CDC website. I feel quite amazed too. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. And very
And
important.
also, yeah, and also there's the Wikipedia update daily regarding the coronavirus uh, situation in Taiwan. You can find this on Wikipedia. And the news about the Taiwan, there are a couple news about Taiwan, why coronavirus responses shows European issue joined the World Health Organization because we are not part of the member. So we feel that we need to survive, but save by ourselves. Yeah. And also there's another saying that the fears of the China made Taiwan a coronavirus success story because we have about 1.5 million people who actually working in China. With so many people that has been living in China, why we only have this statistic up to date? Today we have 355 people infected, 5 people dead. So that because we've been trying to lay out uh, the regulation very early. For example, trying to stop, trying to have the border control very
Mm.
very early
Yep.
in January,
I read about that.
and
Yes.
trying to not exporting mask, trading mask to any other countries very early in January. Yeah, and trying to use the media and also what you said, the technology to distribute the mask. We have the mask map, so it tells you where you can find mask. So that's also quite helpful too. So these are the news regarding Taiwan,
That's
and this is the New
amazing.
Zealand.
The mask map. Yeah. I'm shocked,
Yes,
but it's such a almost clear cut idea. Um, you can do this if you've got enough masks, of course. But
yeah. We plan to
that's very
produce,
very good.
according to the government, we produce 15 million masks per day. That is enough to supply to China. And Minister of Executive Yuan says that very early, because this kind of issue has been raised a little bit debate between how we uh, we act this so fast. Because he said that if we cannot save our country ourselves, we cannot not save others. So very early, we stopped exporting masks to other countries in January. So we are not, this is like a regulation nationwide. So even if you feel that exporting masks that can make some money, you cannot because the government is not allowing to exporting the money. Also, the same time, the government is regulating the price of the mask.
Yes.
Right now is about how much renminbi is two renminbi is more or less like a quarter US
Yes.
dollars.
Yes. Roundabout. Yep. Hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
So maybe let's jump to Ah, yeah, let's talk about South Korea. Very interested.
I know I know a little bit, not too much.
That's
I
okay.
just say that they have a full test system. The full test system allow you to confine the people who are infected. I think this is very successful. But at the same time, putting them, the medical person and the policeman and the military person, a lot of efforts and pressures. But I know Korean, they are different from Taiwanese. I I think even for their the TV, they are different from Taiwanese. I will just show you the TV. This is from the screen. They have doing a TV show based on Zoom, asking people, expert like us, but it's on the TV. We don't have this in Taiwan. So they want everything which is very transparent. They want to know a lot of things. I think this is why the reason in Korea they will reveal the GPS, the information to the general public. They want to see everything which is crystal. Information is openness from Taiwanese.
Yep.
Yeah,
Wow.
and you can see this everywhere. Sanitizer and the posters everywhere on the street. I bet you also have this in Germany too, right?
Um, not a, let's say, not a public disposal or distribution of sanitizers or disinfectants. No, not driven by the public. You may find this maybe in buildings or privately organized, but not so that basically ideally I would think this should be so that it's everywhere and that the basically the government or private donors make this happen, companies, right? I was astounded. I can't tell you where I went, but let's say I had a meeting and it was with people in high positions, and I would have thought that they would have disinfectants there, but no. What we do have, as a matter of fact, is a shortage of masks, a shortage of disinfectants. You can't go out and buy these at the moment here. There's some
No.
pharmacies that make them themselves, but if you order, I ordered disinfectants 6 weeks ago now, still not yet delivered. But the problem
Oh,
is that even the hospitals and those people that should really, really have these supplies don't have them. That's what we hear.
I'm
So posters
sorry
not
to hear that.
not organized by the government. This should be done like we should put up posters and make this a public campaign basically. That's what I would like to see, and I really also like the way, if I just look at it as a designer, the way that it's the graphical representation. This looks, you see people doing the peace sign, right? If I see this correctly. And
Yeah.
that's a great message. It's a good message. It's a message of we can do this. It's not a threat. Yeah, let's have a look.
This is a social
Oh,
distancing.
they don't do the peace sign, but they do the sort of like, yeah, we do this.
No, no, no. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They will do this. Social distancing, two
Yep.
meters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's everywhere
Mm-hmm.
in Seoul.
Yep.
Yeah. And
So
also
yeah,
sanitizer. Yeah.
sanitizer. So looking at the next slide, Dan, because we should come to an end just in terms of time. Exactly. That's would have been my question. So
I think
what's your view, and maybe also let's come back to the notion of resilience. If you think about this, particularly through the lens of resilience and what you've described about Sui Yu Er An, the concept of peace and instilling peace. What are your thoughts?
I I will think and I will do that to promote the idea first to my student, of course, that everyone should be responsible to ours uh, well-being and the health. Everyone should concerned about this. Be responsible for yourself and to the others, but not the doctors. I think doctor and a medical person, they are sacrificing too much this time. I I really think that this is an issue that we should be aware of, not them. But a lot of people, they just think it's their own business. Once I'm ill, I should see the doctor. You are
Hmm.
responsible for
I
my
hear you.
health issue.
They're also people. I have a
Yeah.
friend, the colleague who I did the episode one with, Christoph Herzberg, who is a medical doctor and a great, fantastic guy. He also had COVID-19. He was one of the first patients, and he had a severe uh, infection, severe. And I also, during episode one, I asked him almost naively, "Oh, Christoph, so when you got ill, then you thought all the research questions popped into your head. How will this be happening to me? Self observation." And he said, "I was just ill, and I was very ill."
Oh,
And in that moment, I realized, and this is exactly that. I will almost, and I do research with medical, with MDs, right? So, but I realized, Stefan, they're people and they are getting infected. And then also, if they're being infected, that also has an effect on us because then they can't treat you and they have to shut down the parts of the hospital because there's no people coming in. So I do fully agree with you. We should also very much look at them as human beings, our fellow human beings, and not just the guys who are now have to service, right? Also, that whole clapping thing that drives me crazy. I always think my mom was a nurse, my partner's mom was a nurse. We have many people who are medical people. Don't clap for them. Pay them more money to start with. But that's a different story altogether. But I do fully agree with you. They are. But the question is, how do we deal with this? You know, if people like all the medical staff are also being affected. I don't know.
uh, try to not, for example, try to not make them more trouble. As I said earlier, that this kind of what we call the tradition, how we being politeness, try not to disturb people, should be the way that everyone should be aware of. So not going out, and also try to make yourself strong enough that to gain more knowledge on the health issue. So I am paying attention on the sleep, the issue of sleep for many years. So I will continue to pay attention on this. I just show you the map. This was from yesterday. My friend from Taipei Medical University has just presented. It was a statistic doing the research starting from March 13th until March 24th. The people who has the time of asleep that has increased 25% until
Doesn't
20%,
surprise me.
sorry. Yeah, related to the time asleep has increased almost 20% nationwide.
Wow.
They either sleep, yeah. So sleep is a natural way
Sleep
that
is
we
the
can
answer.
build up build up our immune system and
Absolutely.
stay at home without
Absolutely.
disturbing the rest of the people.
Yes.
And we found that Apple has invest money, and Apple is a larger contribution to the mankind. Will be improving people's health. And what they do is last year, the end of last year, in October,
Mm-hmm.
they have released a software called Alarm, reveal asleep related app that working along with the Apple Watch. And why is Apple going to sleep? Because sleep is the future of the health. I'm not making it up.
No,
It's
no, no,
from
no.
Ford.
I think it's a very good thought. It kind of ties into that whole question of what's the new stillness? What is it also need? And I really like that thought, Daniel. You mentioned you used the word be strong but robust. How do we build resilience for ourselves? And yes, one answer is particularly using technology to allow resilience for ourselves. And that is absolutely, absolutely cool. I do agree.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So this also shows Google has acquired Fitbit last year too. So Fitbit is one of the very good reason for having Fitbit is it is fitness wearables and also is helping you to detect your sleep status. So it is a way that you can monitor your well-being and or understand your well-being based on technologies. Yeah. So I think sleep will be the very easy way for everyone to concern that in order to contribute itself in the way when we have these situations to
Yep.
make yourself better. Yeah.
Hmm. Yep. It's very
It's
good
not
thought.
big effort. It's not big effort. It's very easy. It's very, very super, super easy without any medicines, but it's very helpful.
Hmm. Yep.
Promoting good sleep, quality sleep. Yeah.
Yep. And I know that you've been doing research on sleep, of course. But
Yeah.
yep. So, of course, I'm a little curious, but we have to keep it short. Otherwise, I'm not sure if I can upload this to YouTube. But what is the next slide
No,
saying?
no, no. The next slide is
Yes.
what I'm doing now. I'm
Aha.
doing because I'm away from my family.
Yes,
They
please. We
are
didn't
in,
talk about that. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope that you're coping okay.
yeah, it's okay. It's okay. My daughter, they both have extremely good life right now because they live in the countryside,
Mm,
not in Beijing. So they don't have to catch up the early bus like 6 o'clock in the
mm-hmm.
morning. So they can run in the field right now and they are happy. I'm very happy to them. The one thing is I wouldn't be able to see them for 3 months.
Yes.
So I'm doing something that please myself and to them, and also maybe also please the rest of people in the world. I'm doing a picture book that has been inspired from the previous anti-coronavirus picture book
Yes, and I'll
I
put
was
the
doing.
URL. I will put the URL into the video so people can see where to find the picture book, the first one.
Yeah, and I'm doing this about food. I think food can make people happy, and also my daughter and my wife happy in Korea
Mm-hmm.
without coming here to Taiwan. It's a picture book about the food in Taiwan. You can see
Mm-hmm.
a
Well,
lot of
yep,
different food.
yep. Oh,
So I send to them every single day.
oh, Daniel, this is cool.
It has a German hat.
Yeah, super.
So
S-
this is what I'm doing for my, you know, you know, for the life apart from my teaching. Yeah,
Yep.
I
Yes,
try to please myself, make myself happy enough. Yeah.
and be creative. So creativity is a way to respond to be resilient. I've been seeing
Yes.
videos from people in China who were coming up with these contraptions and weird constructions and stuff that you can do at home, because home becomes an asset in how you can use, I don't know, furniture and whatever you've got there. So a lot of tremendous creativity. So this is exactly what you're doing too here is we should be creative. that's also, I think, a very good reply to how can you be resilient?
Yesterday, I received this from my friend.
Mm,
Was that the UN call out for creativity uh, help to stop the spread of the coronavirus, COVID-19. Yeah, there's also another creativity things that has run internationally,
hmm.
but I do think that we can do this by ourselves, without having national or international government to tell us what to do. I believe this is what we call the resilient. From my earlier uh, uh, definition, adapting oneself to the circumstances
Yeah,
and offering support while you can. Yeah,
that's a very good ending. Thank you so much for your time.
no problem.